For the continuation of the report, let us now proceed to the third traditional fishing practice, which is the salambao or lift nets. Now, these are large nets attached to a wooden or bamboo frame, which is usually placed on a boat or a small floating platform. Now, the net is lowered into the water and then lifted after some time to catch fish swimming above it. Now, salambao is often done at night when the light from a lamp attracts fish toward the net. Now, this method shows how observant and resourceful Filipino fisherfolk are. Now, they are usually or use light to draw in the fish and teamwork or a pulley system to lift the heavy net. Now, let us proceed to the pamansing or hook and line fishing. Now, pamansing is probably the most familiar technique for many of us. Now, it's the traditional hook and line method where a person uses a fishing rod or just a line with a baited hook to catch fish. Now, this method is very personal and quiet. Now, it's very common in rivers, lakes, and seas. So, unlike other methods that require groups or big equipment, pamansing can be done by anyone, even kids or elderly people. Now, it's simple, sustainable, and respects the balance of nature by catching fish one at a time. Lastly, we have something less about tools and more about timing. Now, many fishing communities in the Philippines use seasonal and lunar calendars to guide their fishing activities. Now, they observe the phases of the moon and the changes in the seasons to know when fish are most active or when they migrate. So, for example, they may avoid fishing during a full moon or choose specific tides when fish are closer to shore. Now, this practice shows respect for nature's rhythm and centuries of wisdom passed down from generation to generation. To wrap up, these traditional fishing practices like bukot, baklad, salambao, pamansing, and the use of lunar calendars are more than just techniques. Now, they are part of the Philippines' rich cultural heritage. Now, they teach us about sustainability, unity, creativity, and harmony with nature. Now, even today, many of these methods are still used and respected. Now, as students and future professionals, it's important for us to understand and appreciate how culture and livelihood are deeply connected in the lives of many Filipinos. Now, let's get to know the classification of fish culture systems. Now, fish farming, or also known as aquaculture, is practiced in different ways depending on the types of fish, the farming method, the enclosure used, the number of fish raised, and whether it's combined with other farming practices. Now, these classifications help fish farmers choose the best system based on their resources, goals, and environment. Now, let's begin with the first classification. We have based on culture. Now, the first one is we have monoculture. Now, monoculture means raising only one species of fish in a pond or water body. Now, this system is easy to manage because the fish have similar needs and behavior. Now, it's often used for commercial fish production to ensure uniform growth and size. Example species are tilapia, rainbow trout, and catfish. Now, let's try to imagine if we have a pond and we raise only tilapia in it. Now, that's an example of monoculture. Since all the fish are the same, it's easier to feed and monitor them. Now, let's proceed to the second one. We have the monosex culture. Monosex culture means raising only male or only female fish of one species. It's used to improve growth rate or to control breeding. For example, male tilapia usually grow faster than females, so farmers often raise all male tilapia to get higher production. Examples are all male tilapia, culture for faster growth, female catfish for breeding or broodstock, and male carp for performance testing. Now, this method is useful when you want to control the population or focus on either growth or reproduction. So you don't want the fish to breed uncontrollably in the pond. So that's why it is sufficient to use the monosex culture. The third one is the polyculture. Polyculture is the practice of raising two or more different species of fish together in one pond. Now, the idea is to combine species that do not compete for food or space. Now, some feed at the bottom, some in the middle, and some on the surface. Examples: big-head carp plus grass carp, tilapia plus catla plus midgecal, rojo plus silver carp plus common carp. Now, polyculture is like teamwork in the pond. Each species plays a role and uses different levels of the water. This way, farmers get more production from the same space. The fourth one is the polysex culture. Polysex culture involves raising male and female fish of different species in one pond. Now, this allows for natural reproduction and species interaction. So it must be managed carefully to avoid overpopulation or imbalance. Examples: we have male rojo plus male naini plus male bakor. We could also have female tilapia plus female catla. We could also have mixed sex, regal plus rojo. Now, this system gives farmers a mix of fish from different species and sexes, which could be useful for biodiversity and even natural breeding. Now, let us proceed to another classification based on enclosure. The first one is we have pond fish culture. Now, this is one of the most common methods of fish farming. Now, fish are raised in man-made or natural ponds. So, to be successful, the pond must be in a good location with enough clean water and proper drainage. Now, pond fish culture is popular in the Philippines or here in the country, especially in the provinces. Now, farmers just need to make sure that the water is clean and enough food is available for the fish. Now, let's proceed to the second one. We have the cage fish culture. In this system, fish are raised in cages or net enclosures placed in natural water bodies like rivers, lakes, or even the sea. Now, the cage keeps the fish in one area, making them easier to feed, observe, and harvest. Now, the water around the cage keeps flowing, that provides oxygen and removing waste. Now, cage culture is like putting fish in a floating fish pen in the river or ocean. So they stay inside the cage, but fresh water flows through. Now, this is a great method when you don't have land for ponds. Another classification is we have based on density. The first one is extensive fish farming. This is a low density or low cost system. Fish depend mostly on natural food like algae or plankton in the pond. Fertilizers or manure may be added to increase the natural food supply. Now, this method or system is the simplest or cheapest way to raise fish. So it doesn't need much feeding, but the production is also lower. Second one is we have the semi-intensive fish farming. This is a combination of natural and artificial feeding. Now, fish eat a natural food in the pond, but farmers also give supplementary feed. Now, the water is monitored and sometimes fertilized or change. Now, let us think of this like a halfway method. You give the fish some help with extra food, but they also eat from nature. So it's good for medium scale farms. So the third one is we have the intensive fish farming. Now, this system raises fish in high density using commercial feed. Now, water must be aerated and changed regularly to maintain oxygen and remove waste. Now, the fish grow faster, but the system is expensive and needs more care. Now, we can think of this method like a high-tech method, like in commercial fish farms. Fish grow fast because they're well fed, but you need machines and a good system to keep them healthy. Now let's proceed to another classification. We have based on integration. So a system belongs to this classification is the rice cum fish farming. This is a dual-purpose system where rice and fish are grown together in the same field. Now fish get shelter and food from the rice field itself. Fish help control pests and fertilize the soil. Now this provides farmers with extra income from both rice and fish. Now this method is very helpful for farmers because imagine growing rice and raising fish in the same field. So it's like hitting two birds in one stone. More food plus more profit. To summarize, fish culture systems can be classified in different ways. The first one is based on the species or sex of fish. Second is based on the type of enclosure or water body. The third is based on stocking density and feeding method. And the fourth one is based on how it's integrated with other farming, like in rice fields. Now, each system has its own benefits and challenges. As future educators or agriculturists, it's important to understand these options so we can support sustainable aquaculture in the country. Lastly, let's proceed to material culture and technological adaptation. Now, this refers to the tools and technology used in fishing and how these have evolved over time while still reflecting cultural traditions. First, traditional boats and fishing nets play a very important role in fishing communities. For example, the traditional bangka, which is a type of wooden boat, and the handmade fishing nets are more than just tools. They represent the skill, creativity, and knowledge that have been passed down through many generations of fishermen. Now, these tools reflect the community's deep connection to the sea and their cultural heritage. However, many fishing communities have also started to integrate modern technologies. Today, some fishermen use GPS devices to locate fish, sonar to detect underwater fish schools, and even solar-powered boats to make fishing more efficient and environmentally friendly. Now, despite these new tools, these communities continue to respect and practice their traditional fishing methods and values. So this shows a balance between adapting to new technology and preserving their culture. Fishing is also a key part of cultural identity. This is seen in festivals that celebrate the fishing way of life. For instance, events like the Pesta ng Karagatan, Parada ng mga bangka, and Pahiyas are colorful celebrations that honor the sea, the fishermen's hard work, and the abundance the ocean provides. Now, these festivals bring the community together and keep the fishing traditions alive. In conclusion, the material culture and technological adaptation in fishing communities highlight how tradition and innovation can coexist. Now, the tools and festivals preserve cultural identity, while modern technology helps improve fishing practices. Together, they ensure that fishing remains both a sustainable livelihood and a vital part of Filipino heritage.